Tomorrow we have the Montreal Canadiens and the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights come into the series heavy favorites for those that bet. They come in with basically winning 4 in a row, but not sweeping the Colorado Avalanche, but certainly taking them down from a 2-0 deficit, I think is a pretty significant accomplishment to a very high-powered, high-skilled team that, everyone, a lot of people, including me, I had the Colorado Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup, and I was wrong. But how do we see this series? We'll start this time with Chris.
Make sure I unmute myself first there. I am going to say for this one, it has to be Vegas, but my but on that is that if Montreal is able to score first, they give themselves a fighting chance, because when they scored first in the game, they have a high tendency of winning during this playoff run. So that's their only saving grace. Otherwise, yeah, I'm going to say Vegas in 5.
Yeah, but I think that's a good point. They do have to score first there, Chris. And if they do have a fighting chance, the Carey Price has to stand on his head. Their defense has to be unbelievable, and their offense has to be unbelievable. The team in general just has to play out of their mind, and they could completely, knock everybody's socks off with the predictions and come out flying. But I just think that the fans that are in Vegas, how good Vegas is, I just don't see them that they're going to be able to do it. If they have a fighting chance, then they have to win at least one of the first 2 games down there at in Vegas. So I personally, I have Vegas in 6. I think that Montreal is going to be able to get a 2. So, but crazier things have happened, right? And so like predicting all this stuff is hard. And I want to cheer for the underdog, I really do, but man, I do not want to see Montreal get another cup.
I really think Vegas. This is Vegas. And it's not close. As much as fun as this run has been for Montreal, and everything they do well, that's Vegas does better. They're very much similar teams in terms of how they're built. They're very strong down on the wings with big physical players. Their center depth is they've got players who stepped up and outplayed their cap hits and outplayed what your expectations. They both have strong, big, strong defense, and they've both gotten very good goaltending. But when I look at that, one of the things that both Vegas and Montreal have been able to exploit is being able to dump the puck in and forecheck hard, and create turnovers and create havoc for the opposing defense. But they both know how to break that. So I think it's, when I look at that and I look at how 5 on 5 is where playoffs are usually won and lost, I give the edge to Vegas. And you've got 2 very, very strong lines, and you've got the misfit line, and with Carlson centering Marchessault and Smith, and then you've got Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty on another line there with Chandler Stevenson as the center. And talk about someone who's outplayed expectations and everything. I thought he'd be their 3rd line center this year, with Cody Glass stepping into that into a top 6 role. But Chandler Stevenson's taken that opportunity and run with it, and he's looked really good. And then they also have the experience is pretty even on both sides. Pietrangelo won a couple years ago. Alec Martinez has won a cup. Marc-Andre Fleury's won a cup. And then out on Montreal side, you got Corey Perry, Eric Stahl. Shea Weber's been around the block, even though he hasn't won a cup. Joel Edmondson was part of the St. Louis when they won the cup. But I really look at that, and it's just literally it's Montreal, and everything they do well, Vegas does better. So yeah, I have to go with Vegas, and I think it's gonna. I think Montreal will be lucky to get 2 games. So I'm picking 5.
Wow. Okay. So I'm the one with the hot take. I think this
Surprise,
is going.
surprise.
I think this is going 7. First, one thing that needs to happen if the Canadiens are going to do anything in this series, Josh Anderson has to step up. He's been far too quiet in this series, and he needs game 1. He needs to put himself. If I'm the Canadiens, I tell him you need to get into Ryan Reeves' face as soon as possible, and you need to tell him to fuck right off.
Love it.
Right. That
yes.
is it. And if he's able to do it, I think the Canadiens can push back. And here's the other thing that I think this is a very interesting individual goaltending matchup between Carey Price and Marc-Andre Fleury. And don't think for a second that this is not for Carey Price, that this is not about an opportunity to start for Canada in the Olympics. He has another level of motivation here that I think is just fascinating to me. And you talk about Chandler Stevenson. I think there's Nick Suzuki has been a quiet revelation. Cole Caulfield coming into the lineup has provided a spark. I think the miss of Jeff Petrie is going to be hard in the first game. And hopefully he doesn't miss longer. But I really think the Canadiens can take the Golden Knights to the limit. And here's the other thing with the Golden Knights is they have, with against really strong goaltending, Thatcher Demko, Cam Talbot, they've had trouble putting the puck in the net when they needed to. So, I mean, yes, they did the killer instinct here against the Colorado Avalanche, but they don't put teams away easily. And I think they're going to let the Canadiens hang around a little longer than they should. And this is going to go 7 games. I am picking Vegas ultimately, but this will go 7 games.
I think one thing we need to remember too is how long has Montreal been off for? Almost a week.
There's the rust that we saw with the Winnipeg Jets for sure. But that Montreal's not coming in. I maybe the one difference here is Winnipeg came in a little bit more cocky, and I don't know if Montreal is going to come in as cocky. That might be it may be a change in approach there. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I just want to touch on the Anderson and Reeves fight or potential, matchup here. Who thinks when you think of Ryan Reeves, you think of a massive human being. You do. He has a big presence to him. He's only 6'2", surprisingly enough. I always thought that he was about 6'3", 6'4", a bit bigger, but he's 6'2", 225. Josh Anderson is 6'3", 226. So I like that. That's not out of the realm of possibility, Kev. I love that take. I love it. That if Montreal does have a chance here, that everybody has to play their role. Everybody has to understand what their role is and how to execute it. And that is Josh Anderson's role to get in his grill. The only difference is that Josh Anderson is a top 6 player, and Ryan Reeves is a 4th liner. So that's where.
Yeah, he doesn't have to goon, but it's just establish yourself as we're the ones that we're not going to be bullied here. Which I think happened to Colorado a little bit in Vegas. After Colorado tied the game at 2, Vegas started throwing their weight around, and I don't think Colorado was able to respond. And I do think Montreal can push back a little bit more than that. They have a chance.
Well, they do. I mean, Joel Armia or Noel Armia, he's a big body too that can throw his weight around. So I think the only thing you don't want to get into is if you're Ryan Reeves, that's probably what you'll want. You probably want a Josh Anderson to come and play that game with them so he can potentially get Josh off his game. But I think Josh has a little bit of Jerome McGinley in him, that once push comes to shove, once you poke the bear, then that's where he comes alive. So it's going to be very intriguing to watch that matchup if it does happen. And you do expect, and I would expect that to be the case, that they would be at each other's throats at some point here.
Yeah. It definitely is an interesting misconception, though, about Reeves' size, because like you said, like I thought he was probably like on the same scale as like a Bufflin, but yeah, the fact that he's only 6'2" and 220-ish, like that I thought he was bigger than that.
Yeah.
The thing with that is, I think it'd be much better off for Josh Anderson just to play his game and to be physical. Use Ryan Reeves as motivation to go off and go down and punish Vegas players. If he punishes Ryan Reeves with a big hit, great. If he punishes Marchessault or Smith or Stone with big hits, that's even better. That's actually more effective in his role than going after a Ryan Reeves.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with that though is that we haven't seen that from Anderson like at all. I haven't noticed him. He hasn't been throwing his weight around like he should. And that's the issue, is that if there's going to be a spark within him, like I said, I think he has the Jerome McGinley potential to, if push comes to shove, he'll finally light a fire under his ass, and he'll be able to get going, because that's the Montreal Canadiens need that. That's why they brought him in, to be a power forward, to be that presence that you are scared of to go into the corners with, and he still has that hell of a shot and can score as well. So if they have a chance, Josh Anderson has to be playing. If they have a chance, everybody has to be playing at their best potential. Corey Perry has to be mucking it up in front of the net. Shea Weber has to be clapping shots like left, right, and center and getting people out of the way. Otherwise, maybe try and injure somebody within that shot if he's willing and wanting to, because he can. And that's a nastiness that Montreal needs to bring to the table in order for them to move on or even have a chance within this lineup. And once again, Carey Price just needs to keep on rolling the way he is too, because if he falls off the map, you're relying on Jake Allen, the basket case that is himself. He's not mentally strong enough, I don't think, to carry the Montreal Canadiens. So Carey Price has to be that good of a goaltender.
Yeah, it will be fun. Our poll question, I put up the poll, and unless Sean, do you have it?
I can pull it up.
I got it if you don't.
Oh.
It is, give me a quick second here as I Ron McLean myself through this.
Kevin Oleneking this?
Yeah, actually, maybe that's better. But it was tied just a couple minutes ago. Bolts Golden Knights leading with 38, Isles Golden Knights 34, Habs Isles 23%, Habs Bolts 3.8. Watch it be Habs Bolts and make us all look like fools. But anyway, yeah, so we're even split on that as well. But we're unanimous at the Golden Knights, but we're split on the Islanders and the Lightning. The other one I wondered about, of course, is who would you rather have as your Canadian starting goaltender, assuming it is Carey Price or Marc-Andre Fleury? Which would you rather have as your starting goaltender for the Canadian Olympic team?
Carey Price. I think that he has more. He's more consistent within his work. Which is kind of crazy to say because he has had his struggles, but instantly that's what I think about. It's just the consistency. And but on the other side, yeah, you have Marc-Andre Fleury. I'd say 51% for me. Well, there's the poll. 51% for me for Carey Price and 49% to Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't think you can go wrong with either, realistically, but I just think that if shit does go south for either one of those goalies, I'd say that Carey Price has a better mental attitude towards the game than Marc-Andre Fleury does.
I'd have to agree for the most part. Like Flower makes a strong argument for the number one spot, but I would say Price edges him out just by a little bit. So yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with Devin there.
Smart man.
I've got Price, and it's nothing against Fleury. It's not even close to me. If you're giving me an option to win one game, and that's what the Olympics are. Like once you get through the round robin, it's single elimination. I want Carey Price. And it's nothing against Fleury. It's just Devin mentioned it, his mental game. He just has it. And he's had a couple bad seasons, but you saw last year when he's rested. I don't think even now, I mean, in his older side of his career, I don't think there's a better goaltender, especially amongst Canadian goaltenders, in terms of knowing the pressure and not letting it bother him, and being able to rise up to playing in the moment. And so for me, it's not even close. It's Carey Price.
It's Price for me too. Probably maybe a little bit closer, but because I do think Fleury gives a different attitude, but I would go with Carey Price here. One more thing on this series. I didn't realize this until I listened to 31 Thoughts this week. Did you know that this is Pete DeBoer's third conference final in 4 years?
Damn.
And he's been to the Stanley Cup final twice with New Jersey and San Jose. I think he might be an underrated coach. I forgot. I should have put him in that who we have in the Canadian coach, because I think he legitimately should be considered.
Yeah, I would argue that he's probably an underrated name as far as the coaching elite goes.
Well, even if he's not realistically, he probably wouldn't be a head coach for Team Canada, but he would definitely be an assistant or associate or whatever, verbiage you want to use within that, because that it really doesn't matter. You have a bunch of head coaches on the same coaching staff. You're going to collaborate whichever way you want to collaborate. So yeah, that's a great point there, Kev.
Realistically, I think 3 out of the 4 head coaches in these series are going to be a part of the Canadian coaching staff for the Olympics.
How do you see Dominic Ducharme being a part of the staff? I'm curious.
3 out of the 4?
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Humor. All right.
Battle of the jokesters over here. Yeah. No one likes it. Whenever Sean makes a joke, Kevin's like, no. Whenever Sean makes a joke, Kevin, or vice versa. It's funny.
Everyone knows who's funny here.
It's funny. We're having fun.
It's damn fun we're having here. Damn it. We're having fun. I should clip that. Anyway, anything else on these 2 series before we move on?
I think we're good.